Hey there guys, it's Dark Chieftain back with another NTW ACW Hardcore mod multiplayer battle. This is the 1.5 version, the new version that came out recently for the ACW mod made by Coldfront. And today we're going to have a 4v4 on Enlows Fork B. I will be playing as Union 1st Corps. Along with me will be Tiny Rick playing as 20 and 21st Corps, Ethan, or E-Thank You, playing as 6th Corps, and Bugz playing as 12th Corps. Opposing us will be Hubs, playing as 1st Corps Pickett's Division for the Confederates. DVS, who's playing as the Confederate Coastal / Siege Army. Texas is Best, who's playing as the left wing of the Confederacy at Antietam. And then Garden Variety Socialist, playing as right wing of the Confederacy at Antietam. So the plan for this battle, from our perspective at least, is for Bugz on my left to march up and hold this high hilltop. Our hope was that no one would attack there. We'll see if that pans out or not. Over here, I, as 1st Corps, will be taking this center 1 point here, which is this corner of this little yellow field and the woods, the two woods meeting with the road there. To my direct right is going to be 6th Corps, taking a position in this woods, and to the right of him is going to be 20 and 21st Corps over here in the woods in the open on the right side. I also have two of my artillery batteries over on the right side. Myself and Tiny Rick are going to create a grand battery on this flank. So, it ought to be a good battle. Without further ado, I will skip ahead to the action. Alright, so over on the left you can see that one of Bugz' cavalry is routing, and this other one is charging up the hill, getting hit by artillery, as you can see, as well as being flanked by skirmishers. Here you can see the casualties from the 1st Cavalry Unit. Essentially, Bugz was trying to charge from his position on the hill and charge up across, like through the valley, up the next hill, and hit this artillery before the infantry gets up to support it. Unfortunately, our opponents knew what was coming, and they were able to get artillery hits on these cav before they're able to get to the guns. Over here, I have my skirmishers moving up. I realize that he only has one skirmisher protecting his guns in the woods here. He's got an 8-gun battery here, and he has a 2-gun howitzer battery over here. So I am moving up all my skirmishers to kill this 28th Virginia, and then move forward and attempt to pick off the gun crews before they can do too much damage, and before the infantry gets up to protect the guns. So you see the artillery from the flank back here is coming in with some 24-pound howitzers. They're going to do a lot of damage. Because of the hill, the cav is moving very slow, as you can see. And you can't charge too soon because if they get exhausted, they might break before they even get close. So he's walking rather than running. Probably trying to get a volley off with the cav since they can fire from horseback. There's more artillery coming in, some canister absolutely shredded the right flank of these poor cav, and they're going to break right before they get to the guns, unfortunately. I'm going to continue pushing up. I got this unit flanking his skirmishers to fire at the howitzers. Over here you can see that Ethan and Tiny Rick were able to take this forest with their cav and skirmishers, and they've got their guns in the rear of the forest. I have my guns coming up. Their infantry's on the way as well. Usually on this map, all the heavy fighting, or the majority of the heavy fighting, is done in this woods. You got 2 hills with heavy forest. Usually there's a lot of fighting here, but we were able to push out the 25th South Carolina, or 4th Georgia Cavalry, rather, out of this woods and take the woods. So now we're going to have a nice defensive position. They have to fight across this open ground for at least 2 of their armies. So they're actually going to probably shift over and hit me in this woods here, since they won't have to fight from open field into woods. They can fight woods to woods. Over here, I was able to rout his skirmishers, and I'm about to rout his howitzers, and he's actually getting canister shots on my skirmishers, so this 8-gun battery is shredding my guys, and there the howitzers are out, so I'm going to push my skirmishers up, try to get some shots off at the 12-pound Napoleon battery here. But I am running out of time. He's got a lot of infantry coming up, and as soon as they get into action, my skirmishers will be useless. Over here, I'm getting my infantry up. This is my left flank, my elite units, 5 units of Iron Brigade, plus 12th Massachusetts, my best melee unit, and then 16th Maine and 13th Massachusetts, which is back here, as the reserves on that flank. And the rest of my infantry force is going to the right side of the road. All these regiments here. My plan is to draw him into combat, First Corps that is, Pickett's division with these super chevroned Virginia regiments. This is actually a rule breach. The rule that is usually put in place is that you can only chevron units up to 2 chevrons when you're like creating your army. If they get more chevrons in the battle, obviously that's just how it works, but you're not supposed to dump a bunch of chevrons into individual units because they make them super overpowered and nearly impossible to kill and really messes with the game balance. But anyway, we didn't want to have to rehost or anything like that. We just dealt with it instead of making a big issue of it. But my plan is draw him into combat here and then actually fall back to here, hoping that he pushes me hard, and then the rest of my army can come out of this woods and hit him in the flank and hopefully sweep him down the hill. Elevation or hill advantage is very helpful when it comes to melee charges. And First Corps' melee defense is pretty poor across the board. They have great melee attack, great charge bonus, but their defense is really bad. So if I'm able to get, basically 12 units of infantry charging down the hill with general support, my hope was to sweep him down the hill and out of the woods and hopefully rout his whole army. We'll see if that works for us or not. Over here, 6 Corps skirmishers are engaging the front infantry of Jackson's Wing. That is played by Texas is Best. Over here you can see 2021st Corps pushing his skirmishers forward. We have a great artillery position on this side. As you can see, we've got, 20 guns, I believe. 16, 24 guns. We have 24 guns lined up in one big battery, and we're going to be suppressing Gamble's Florida artillery. And then once that artillery is weakened or gone, we'll start firing at John Pelham's Virginia battery. Over here on the left, you can see that Bugz is taking up position on top of the hill. He's making a bit of a mistake here. It's what some people call plain NTW3. Essentially, another great mod for Napoleon, NTW3 has a feature scripted in where the thicker your unit is, the higher morale they have. So everyone that plays it, or most people that play it, have their units in these big, thick formations with numerous lines. In this mod, that morale thing is not not a feature of this mod, and it's actually detrimental to have your units in big, thick lines like this because they're a major artillery target. These units are going to get slaughtered if they get hit by direct artillery, and then it decreases your quantity of fire. You can see only the first 2 or 3 ranks generally fire when your units are in line with this mod, so it's best to have your unit in a 2-man deep line spread out. So like Bugz could have, half as many units covering the same distance and firing just as much, and then you'd have essentially double the reserves behind them, so you can cycle more units out and have more extra units for flanking. As you can see, right wing is sending some units to flank around this road here. But like overall, this is a terrible position to assault. You're going up a very steep hill. You're outnumbered, both in terms of manpower and in terms of number of regiments. But because Bugz is minimizing his effectiveness and increasing his casualties by the artillery barrage, you can see it's maybe 5 minutes into the, less than 10 minutes into the actual fighting, and this unit of howitzers already has 3 chevrons. Now some of that's from the cavalry, but I guarantee at least 2 of the chevrons are from blowing his infantry to shreds because they're in these big fat formations. It's just not a smart formation to be in. Here you can see I actually pulled back a little bit, which was a mistake. I didn't realize this at the time, but the height advantage actually, or the hill here, peaks right here. So if I had lined up right here, he would have had to come uphill, and if he had charged me, he would have lost a lot of his charge bonus. But I actually pull back and give him that little bit of a hill, which is a mistake that I'm going to pay for later in the battle. Over here you can see Tiny Rick's cavalry is skirmishing with some infantry from Texas's best. But even though Texas has the hill advantage, he's still firing into a woods. He's going to be taking more casualties than he dishes out. And you can see that he's under our direct artillery fire, which doesn't help either. You can see he is doing a good job. Texas is best. I'll just call him Texas, it's easier to say. He's doing a very good job of spreading his units out as far as he can. They're kind of like in a 1.5 rank. That's going to minimize his casualties from artillery and increase the amount of fire he can put out on these the cav, which is actually being replaced by infantry now. That'd probably be the best option right now would probably be to pull back from this, reform your men, and then get like a triple line assault ready, and then assault into the woods at the same time as DVS assaults the flank here. They might be able to, if they were to do that now, they probably could overwhelm 2021st Corps before enough support gets over there. Texas is actually going to send some of his regiments over to the right to assist 1st Corps against me. That's going to allow 1st Corps to shift as many men as he needs to hit me over here. You can see I made a big mistake. I usually tell all my men to hold fire and only open fire when the enemy is close. Here, these two units, 7th Wisconsin and 24th Michigan, I forgot to tell them to hold fire, and so they're standing here shooting my own men in the back. Caused a few casualties. Not a ton, but it's still annoying that he knows pretty much all the units I have here, even though they should be hidden. Back here, my Napoleons are still firing. They are down to 26 men. I'm trying to drive off some of his artillery. They have a decent pile of artillery in this area. You got 8 guns plus 2 guns. You got 3 left over here. You got 6 more coming up from Texas, as well as 2 3-inch batteries or 3-inch guns. Over here you can see Bugz General actually gets routed because these Palmetto sharpshooters were able to sneak around behind him. They, if you remember, they were over here firing at the cav earlier, and Bugz just kind of must have forgot about him. They were able to sneak up around behind and rout his general. That's a very unfortunate situation. At the same time, you have these 3 regiments flanking him pretty hard. I think if I was Bugz in this situation, or if I was 12th Corps and I was holding this position, I saw Longstreet do this. Longstreet's wing, played by Garden Variety Socialist. I would love to see this because essentially he is splitting off 3 of his regiments from his main force. These units have no support, and they're going to be no general, and they're going to be fairly close to the edge of the map. What I would do, send 4 or 5 regiments, some of my reserves, over here with the general, and attempt to completely destroy these units. You know, wear them down with ranged a little bit, and then charge down the mountain, hit them in melee, and then once they rout, continue hitting them in melee until there's nothing left, or so little left they won't come back. It's an easy, and then because he's defending, those units that do that could then march back up and get to the rear of his line before Longstreet's wing breaks through, or so the hope would be. You know, you rarely want to split off a small force from your main army like this. And you can, if you know what you're doing, if you're watching for it, you can take advantage as the defender in this situation. Eliminate this contingent of his force, and then he's down 3 regiments, and you maybe lose 1 or 2 at most. Likely yours will come back if you can rout his and then kill him in melee. So that would have been a nice thing, but I'm not judging Bugz because not everyone's going to do that. It's not like you have to do that in that situation. Over here you can see Pickett's has pulled up and has begun his assault, so I'm going to, as he extends his flank down the hill, I'm going to match him and extend the flank. You got some cav from 6th Corps coming over to help. Got my boys opening fire. or they should be soon. And it's going to be a major issue fighting against these Chevron units. They have higher morale, higher accuracy, higher reload rate, everything. All their stats across the board are way better, and it's already the best, most elite regiments in Pickett's division, 57th Virginia and 14th Virginia. I think 53rd Virginia as well. These guys are going to do a lot of damage very quickly. You can see this unit, 2nd Wisconsin's already lost 40 men because of that high accuracy and high reload rate. So I need to wear them down as much as possible. So I've got actually, I think, 3 units in the front line firing at this one, as well as units on the flank. And I'm slowly shifting my army this way. As 6th Corps comes up with his infantry and replaces mine, I'm shifting all my units to this flank because I realize the main brunt of the 1st Corps assault is going to come against my elite forces. So I'm going to continue extending my line out to the right. I'm going to replace my 7th Wisconsin since they took heavy casualties. 24th Michigan's going to replace them and hopefully hit the 38th Virginia hard. 6th Wisconsin, they've taken light casualties. I don't think they're being directly targeted. But you can see 57th Virginia has only lost a little over 20 men, and they have probably killed close to 100 at this point. So, not going too well. But hopefully my men can pull it back. See over here, he is slowly advancing across the open field between the woods, but I am being hit hard and pushed back. My casualties are very high, his are relatively light so far. Winning on the far left, or I was. I'm actually going to pull back because of these sharpshooters. Losing units left and right, essentially. I'm having to reform my line, pull my units back, shift reserves over from the right as fast as I can. As 6th Corps comes up to replace me. Over here, we got some units from Jackson's wing, played by Texas, are coming to press my right flank, my far right flank, but 6th Corps is moving to replace me, thankfully. Got some fresh units up here. He's going to continue pushing forward. I expect him to go into melee, and he's actually staying out of melee, surprisingly. Obviously, he's winning the gun battle, so he doesn't need to go into melee, but with Pickett's Corps, or Pickett's division rather, usually players try to get into melee as quickly as possible. Against the Union, gun battles like this tend to play to Union advantage because the Union units usually are larger on average. Obviously this is a bigger unit for Confederacy, but Union tends to have larger armies in terms of numbers. I'm getting thin. My reserves are already thinning out, and I don't think he's lost a single unit yet. Luckily, I think they saw 6th Corps reserves come up, so he's going to pull back from this assault. He was taking, out of everywhere that he's fighting, he's taking the heaviest casualties in the open right here, which makes sense. Over here, Bugz is slowly having to fall back up the hill as Longstreet's wing hits him hard. This little flank is still alive and well. He has some cav from 21st Corps coming to assist against it to protect Bug's flank. In the middle, these 2 units are just marching through my guys, basically. There goes one of my Iron Brigade units, 6th Wisconsin. 57th Virginia is starting to take some casualties. They've lost 80 men. 14th Virginia has lost 50, but they're dishing out way more casualties than that. He's actually going to have to pull back a little bit because I'm moving to flank him. And 6th Corps is replacing me, Ethan. I give him a lot of credit. He's replaced me at the perfect rate that I'm able to get my reserves over to replace my routing units. pretty much as they route. So I'm not doing too good, but Ethan's doing very well. Over here, he was actually able to route some of Jackson's wing regiments, so he's going to push out and counterattack where Jackson's wing, it's played by Texas, is weak. See, Texas is kind of spread out. He's facing 2 full armies right now. He really needs DVS to get his men up here and replace the left flank of Texas' army, so that Texas can consolidate his forces. See, he's reforming. So Texas is reforming his front line, but you get this beautiful multi-unit stack of 6 Corps, the elite Vermont regiments, artillery raining in as well. See if these boys can get a shot off. There was a nice volley, and he actually is going to run away before getting another volley off, and the 2nd Vermont's going to charge the 15th Alabama.
A unit has grown weary, sir.
And here the 15th Alabama is going to rout. Looks like without a general, 6 Corps' 2nd Vermont also almost routed, but now Texas turns around, he sends his units into the melee. There goes the 2nd Vermont. And Pickett's division is having to send reserves over to cover his flank, because otherwise 6 Corps would be able to wrap around his flank here. Let's see, the melee is still going on. More and more units are pouring in. So, 6 Corps, Ethan's actually going to bring out his full force to press left wing, Jackson's wing. Alright, so with those units routing, Texas's right flank has been hit pretty hard, and now 6 Corps is going to charge against some of Pickett's regiments. He's doing a great job of threatening the Confederate center, causing Pickett to have to halt his advance temporarily, split his micro. You can see that both those smaller Pickett's division regiments are broken already. Over here, I was able to shift my entire force out of this woods and over into this woods, thanks to 6 Corps replacing my men. And my goal right now is really just to wear down these Virginia regiments with the chevrons, and hopefully rout them before they do too much damage to my force. A lot of my routing units come back as well. And then over here, we have a regiment, 1st Maryland. Bugz sent them up to assist me, but they're going to get hit really hard and routed before they even get a volley off. As my reserves get over, I'm swapping them out with my weakened frontline units. And I made a big mistake. I made a couple mistakes. This is not my best battle by far. I actually forgot one of my units all the way in the back, and this is the 94th New York, 206 men. It's the 2nd biggest regiment I have. They stay back there the entire battle until there's about 5 minutes left, because I forgot about them and didn't realize they were there until, late in the battle. But 6 Corps, after breaking through over here, he's actually going to fall back with most of his men. He's pressing Pickett's flank. Alright, so 6 Corps' attack is starting to weaken. His Vermont men are getting worn down and routing. And he's about to get hit in the flank by Jackson's wing, so he's actually have to pull back from this assault. He is weakening 1st Corps, helping me out a lot. Over here, Pickett's division has split his assault, but it has petered out due to him having to send reserves back to fight 6 Corps. And you can see his frontline units are starting to take pretty heavy casualties. Normally, a normal unit with no chevrons, even an elite one, would have broken by now. This unit has taken over 50% casualties. But because they have all these chevrons, their morale is super high, and they're going to stay until they have almost no men left. Thanks to Ethan's awesome counterattack, First Corps Confederate, Pickets Division, is going to have to pull back and reconsolidate his force over here, pretty much abandoning this woods entirely, which leaves a almost open alley to his guns for me. Although at this point I'm pretty weakened, I don't have any strength to actually make an assault that way. I have to focus everything on defending against First Corps, Pickett's Division. Ethan, 6th Corps, also brought up his Napoleons to sit on this side of this hill and fire down into the Confederate flank over here. Bugz is being pressed pretty hard by Longstreet's wing. He's losing some melees over here. And he's going to have to slowly fall back as he gets overwhelmed by numbers. Over here, he's still got 3 regiments facing off against these 3. The flanking force. You can see how it would have been beneficial for Bugz if he had destroyed these 3 units separate from the rest of the force. They wouldn't be an issue right now, and he'd have at least 2 of these regiments on his front line to help. Over here, 6th Corps fell back into the woods. He's reformed, and DVS with District of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida has started an assault. Unfortunately for him, he's in the open, and we have a massive collection of guns. I have this piece, this artillery battery, actually counter-battering in the center, but my other guns are firing at his infantry. As you can see, Tiny Rick's guns are as well. So these infantry in the field are going to get shredded by all the artillery that's firing directly at them. You can see the artillery position, beautiful position for artillery, firing into an open field. And you can see units already breaking from the guns and infantry fire. This unit's lost 60 men, mostly from artillery. But he's got to assault because 1st Corps got hit so hard by 6th Corps, and Jackson's wing is already weakened. DVS needs to make this assault to take pressure off of Jackson's wing. Because if 6th Corps was able to pull off at this flank here and then consolidate his forces, he could probably punch through this half of Jackson's wing pretty easily, since the other half is focused on 21st Corps. Over here, I'm moving up one of my only Napoleon battery to put it behind my men and help with some canister and shrapnel shot at close range. I'm also slowly reforming my men, consolidating them, trying to organize them, as many units are very weak and other units are a little bit stronger, like this 12th Massachusetts, still decently strong. So the other ones are pretty weak. Over here, Bugz is falling back, and he actually got caught in melee with some of Pickett's regiments, and you can see 12th Corps lost that. 12th Corps is more of a shooting corps. They aren't nearly as good at melee, so he's going to pull back to this area here. He's going to try to hold this one on my left flank, or at least delay Longstreet's wing long enough for me to defeat 1st Corps. See, some of 1st Corps units are starting to break, but he still has his 2 elite regiments. And I think I must have not realized how weak he was. I thought he had more men in here than he does. I really should have made a proper counterattack and tried to smash 1st Corps a little bit faster in hindsight. But at the time, I thought he had more, and I did not make that move. I was being a little bit too cautious. Back on the right, this is where the main action's happening at the moment. You can see all these cannons are just shredding the Confederate regiments. As you can see, DBS is doing a pretty good job at the moment. He's able to rout 2 of 2021st Corps' regiments, but he does lose his 25th South Carolina, very healthy unit, essentially redlined. Yeah, too close to the edge of the map, and they're gone for the battle. And over here, he was able to rout some units, but he's taking heavy casualties. The artillery is causing his units to rout. He can't sustain this assault for long. You can hear the constant artillery explosions. Now, we were able to drive these guns off. It's actually a pretty good position. It's on top of a hill in the open field. It has a nice view of 2021st Corps' lines, but we were able to drive this battery off with our artillery. Over here, I think some of DBS's regiments, looks like this one got glitched out or something. I don't see any of the men, but it's not firing. It seems like both his units got glitched out. Over here you have a 2-gun battery of Whitworths, just sitting there. So overall, we're winning the artillery duel. I don't think we've lost any units to routing yet. And I actually pushed 2 of my units towards the artillery with the intent to destroy them. At this point, I was getting hit hard in the flank by artillery, both from Longstreet's wing and at some point from the 32-pound Parrots way in the back. But I was trying to get rid of as much artillery as I could. I actually had to charge this unit and routed it in melee. And at this point, I realized that if I try to kill the guns, I'm sacrificing these 2 units completely, because Jackson's wing is going to be able to cut me off from my main force. So I'm actually going to pull back. I routed this 28th Virginia and didn't get any artillery kills, sadly, but I have to pull his units back. I'm just not strong enough to risk not having my full force in the same spot. Over here, Bugz falls back to this tree line. The hope was that Longstreet's wing would be aggressive and just come across the open field, but he's being very smart. He's staying in the woods, and he's going to focus his full force on this one little flank, which is going to push Bugz out of this position. Unfortunately, no one else can send support to Bugz at this point because how weak I am. I'm the closest, and I'm just really weak. 6th Corps and 2021st Corps are in their own fight and are too far away to get help over there in time. Now, I could have brought this unit up if I knew it was there, but me being an idiot, I forgot about it. Over here, you can see DBS is continuing his assault. It's kind of back and forth in terms of units routing, but most of the casualties are the Confederates, and he's actually going to pull back now, realizing that this assault is lost. He did make some ground up in the woods, but the casualties are too high. He can't afford to keep taking that level of casualties, and he's going to pull back into defensive position. And he can do that because they are winning on the right side. All that they really need to happen right now is for Longstreet's wing to smash Bugz, and then he can sweep down and hit me in the flank, and I won't stand long with my weakened army. And just by taking out Bugz, Longstreet's wing actually will control the 3 and the 1-pointer, and that'll give them LOC. Then we have to attack and be aggressive at that point. With only 21 minutes left, it could go either way at this point, the battle as a whole. See, I have my Napoleon still firing into his units. You can't see them, but the guns are still targeting them, trying to wear them out and rout them. Don't know how you would see anything from here. But I'm not complaining. you can see that 6th Corps, Ethan, is actually getting his guns up on the flank, and he's going to get some enfilade fire off at Longstreet's wing. Over here, Longstreet is charging against the 150th New York. Very large, hefty unit. You can see that both armies are pouring in reserves to this big melee. 24th Georgia, very small unit, and they're going to break. Unfortunately, I don't think Bugz has his general, and so he's going to be pushed back from that melee. He's going to lose. If he had his general, he may have been able to win that, but at this point he's lost. He's going to have lost 5 regiments in the one melee, and he only routed 2 Confederate. So that's definitely a net loss for him. He does have his general there. Okay. So it's just the superior Confederate melee, I guess, in this instance. And he's now down to 4 or 5 regiments. He's going to have to pull back and link up with me in this little bit of woods. Over here, I'm trying to finish off 1st Corps, so I'm making somewhat of a push. But with Bugz falling back, my flank is going to be exposed. I can't stay here for very long. My main goal at the moment is still to rout these 2 elite Virginia units, both of which have less than 100 men, and still refuse to break. You see the artillery is doing a lot of damage to me down in the valley here. My units are not happy. 6 Wisconsin's down to 85 men, about half strength. 2nd Wisconsin's down to half strength. 121st Pennsylvania. So I think my army as a whole, across the board, is down to about half strength. Let's see, 1st Corps or Pickett's division is bringing up everything he has left. So he only has about 5 infantry left. If I had known that earlier, I mean, I have, as you can see, a lot more than that. I should have counterattacked and tried to smash him sooner. At this point, 6th Corps and 2021st Corps push out of the woods. They're double teaming Texas as Jackson's wing. As you can see, Texas, his army is very weakened. 6th Corps has a very large army with lots of units left, and he's going to sweep through these weakened units pretty easily and start shifting reserves over to my flank to attempt to assist against Longstreet's wing, which is a very healthy corps right now. You can see all 6th Corps' artillery is over on this side now, and I'm also bringing over my artillery. I'm trying to assist against Longstreet's wing in any way I can. Here I have to pull back into the woods. I am starting to not necessarily rout these units, but they're starting to become unhappy with their situation. Both at about 65 men. You can see my artillery hits coming in. All I wanted was for these units to just break so that I could counterattack. I didn't have to worry about them anymore. Starting to shift men over to my left because I know I'm going to have to hold it against the assault from Longstreet's wing. 2nd Wisconsin's about to break. They're down to about 1/3 strength. And they're going. Unfortunate, it's my favorite regiment, and I'm actually going to, rather than pushing reserves up, I'm going to pull back the rest of my line and reform behind my reserves, and that'll be my new front line. Over here. Jackson's wing has stabilized their line and are doing a good job of delaying 6th Corps. In terms of sheer numbers, he can't win this fight at the moment, but he can at least do his best to delay until his allies win elsewhere. 2021st Corps is going to assault DVS in the woods here. That could go either way. He's moved up his howitzers, and just a bunch of howitzers. See how many chevrons they have. They're doing work, getting kills. And these 2 units in the field won't stand long. Over here, Texas is about to fall. Texas's army is about to fall apart, which will allow 6th Corps to mop up some of the artillery and continue shifting reserves over here. Thankfully, Bugz still has some infantry left, and he's going to be able to hold my flank against Garden Variety Socialist. So I can focus on fighting 1st Corps. There's that Confederate artillery raining down. I think I lost a horse or something. General Solomon Meredith. 19th Indiana is down to 1/3 strength. Just across the board, very weak. Back on the Iron Brigade in the front. Got my units double stacking. See the Confederates right there, 2 infantries. This unit's down to 44 men. This unit 102. This unit's down to 53. 50 men. And 44 men are his 2 elite units. The standard units with no chevrons would have left a long time ago at this point. But those 2 units keep coming, or they haven't routed once, so they just stay and fight. Let's see, my 7th Wisconsin, 60 men. They're getting close to breaking. Right now I'm targeting his center unit, since they're down to 50 men and they are not a chevron unit. I'm trying to rout them. Maybe get a lucky hit in his general, since it's so close to his infantry. It's General Longstreet himself. He's got a cigar in his mouth. And there, I'm actually able to rout his unit. He's going to replace it with his 14th Virginia and move his general. As his 14th Virginia also finally broke with 35 men left. Now I'm going to focus on the 57th Virginia, try to break them. And it's imperative that I break this flank as quickly as possible, because my left flank is getting hit by Longstreet's wing, different Longstreet than that one. Over on the other side, you can see our center, we've won almost completely. Artillery's being mopped up, the last few infantry regiments. DVS is still doing a decent job of holding the woods, but he's getting outflanked. Being this outnumbered is not a great position for him. So the heaviest fighting is happening over on this flank. And pretty soon here, looks like General Longstreet's going to rout, which will help, hopefully, rout the 57th Virginia. And there they go, down to 29 men before they broke. And they had to lose their general too. Over here, now we have the full force of Longstreet's wing hitting myself and the remainder of Bugz. Looks like there's a big melee over here. Bugz seems to be winning at the moment. He's routed a couple right-wing regiments. But right-wing has plenty of reserves here to throw into that fight. And we're down to 10 minutes. Right now LSC is looking sketchy. Technically they own this 3-point as well as this 1. But we own this 3-point as well as the 2. So we do have LSC. The front line would essentially be across here and in like a weird angle down through here. But we own all these LSC points. So unless they smash us in the center here and are able to take a couple more points, maybe this 2 and this 1, we're looking pretty good at the moment. You can see I finally realized my unit It's been sitting back here, waste of a perfectly good unit. And initially I start moving them over to the 3-point because as long as we have one infantry regiment there, it's considered ours with LOC. But they don't even get there before the battle's almost over, and I end up shifting them over to fight here, and then the Confederate forces routed by the time that they get there. So that unit did literally nothing, no casualties, no kills, just stood in a cornfield and hung out for a while. Here, I'm repositioning my 2-gun Napoleons. I'm trying to move them back to a better angle. And there goes my 147th New York. To replace them. You can see at this point, Longstreet's wing. He's got a lot of smaller units, but he's got tons of regiments left, just not as much in terms of numbers. 6th Corps is going to come up and do a melee and try to throw back the right flank of Longstreet's wing. On the right, Longstreet, or Garden Variety Socialist, GVS, is doing a good job of stretching my lines out, preventing me from having any reserves. He's assaulting me from both sides. I literally have every single unit that I have left in the front line, or one of the 2 front lines. You can see I'm making some mistakes. This Michigan should be spread out more, but because of how close most of my units are to routing, I don't want to reposition any of them because they stop firing. And at this late in the battle, I want as many shots off as I can, even if it means not being in the best position with this unit. He actually has a pretty good shot at routing me over here on my right. My units are all really weak and I've lost a lot of men. I actually expected these 2 units to rout, so I pull back my line here and reform. You see now 21st Corps sending reserves over. I think the rest of 6th Corps infantry, minus a couple regiments that are going for artillery, are coming to help. DVS is still fighting on the flank, but he is slowly getting pushed back and routed. See, these Georgians are putting up a good... It's actually an artillery battalion that's fighting his infantry. It's interesting. Over here, see 6th Corps sweeping through Longstreet's wing. We have General Longstreet himself. He's going to stand bravely and take the charge from 2nd Vermont. His aides are down, and there goes General Longstreet. Rest in peace. Over here at this point, knowing the battle's over, Longstreet, played by GVS, is going to charge everything. I'm going to charge my men in, trying to get the battle to trying to rout all the Confederates before the battle ends, so that we get a full victory rather than just an LOC victory. And then on the right, I'm actually going to charge down the hill at his 2 regiments here. Goes to 1st Texas, and he's down to just the 3rd Arkansas. The 11th Pennsylvania coming down, charge in. Now I should send these other 2 units in here in a second. But because their general's gone, I think, or just army losses, now their general died, they're going to break pretty quick. That charge bonus from coming down the hill helps a lot too. Now the Confederate infantry force is reduced to just these 2 regiments here. And all we have to do aside from routing those units is finishing off one unit of DBS and then the artillery in the back. You can see my 200-man unit that never fought, slowly making their way up, trying to get up here to fight these units, but they are going to rout. By the time I can get there, they'll be gone. The thing is, at this point, it's obvious that we won the battle, so I'm just going to skip ahead to the end. It's pretty much just us marching around trying to kill guns and finishing off the infantry. Alright, here you can see the end results. I did not do great. I generally, even in a loss, try to have more kills than losses. You can see I had almost 300 more losses than kills. Part of that is my army was, I think, 900 men bigger than First Corps. Let's see. Yeah, about 900 men bigger. He had more of an elite force and was able to do more with more kills with less losses, essentially. But good game to everyone, all the opponents as well as my allies. It was fun. I look forward to the next one. Here you can see artillery on the right flank got a lot of kills. Artillery on the left in the valley. 24th Michigan got a decent number of kills. Lots of losses though across the board. As you can see, some of my units did not do great. You can see the 12th Massachusetts barely fought because they were in reserve most of the time. I wanted to keep them in case of a melee charge since they're my best melee unit. And then here's the 94th New York. 0 kills, 0 losses, nothing the whole game. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.